Hi, everybody. I'm very excited again to welcome Ariel Faulkner, RD, for our part 3 interview. If you haven't checked out part 1 and part 2, you're missing out. They were a lot of fun. We dropped a lot of in there, a lot of things that people are really thirsty for, this knowledge of how to free yourself from the brainwashing of the keto and the carnivore cultist education. So, Ariel, you dabbled a little bit in keto, and very quickly the negative effects of eliminating carbohydrates sprung up very quickly, and thankfully you were able to realize that and reintroduce carbohydrates. Maybe you can share a little short bio just one more time for those who have not watched part 1 and part 2, and then we'll dive deeper into the topic of diet and boosting metabolism and why keto and carnivore are not the greatest thing that you would want to be doing, and especially not for weight loss.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been a dietitian for over 20 years now. I am officially 45 and perimenopause. Hello.
Hello.
Whole nother world now.
Right.
But yeah, I've been working with clients one-on-one for over 20 years. I used to be primarily in sports nutrition. Now I work primarily with weight management, body composition, all kinds of gut issues, multiple comorbidities. But to go on from that, I'll just jump into, when I experimented with low carb, it was in my mid 30s. And it was really when it was I remember Dr. Peter Attia. I mean, these really big names were really down that rabbit hole. And, I had a really interesting comment on my other channel that I would love to address here, because I think it's important. Because a woman commented, well, you're a dietitian and or something about you're a dietitian and it took you that long to look at the research or something in that realm. And something I want to explain about that is you will find in research a lot of studies that show beneficial effects of carbohydrate restriction. Now, the problem is, and this isn't something I had really thought of then, which is obvious to me now, but that research is done on people who are not metabolically healthy. They're insulin resistant, they're obese, they're overweight. There were a few studies that had come out in athletes, and they did actually show some benefits. But the problem is they were extremely short term. We're talking 4 weeks. We're not talking years. And the other piece of that is my personality, even in school, was questioning the status quo. If you're going to tell me this is the way the body works, if this is the way nutrition works, all of this, then I want to know the how, the why. I want to understand all of the mechanisms. I want to understand how we came to this conclusion. And I remember I was always challenging my professors in university to the point where they said, Ariel, you really should move on to get a PhD, because I'm always thinking outside the box. And in fact, one of the things that I challenged them on around gut health was I had asked them about leaky gut and developing food sensitivities. And this is actually well accepted now. And I was told that was quackery when I was in college. So the thing I really want to make clear is when you are somebody who really is a questioner and applies critical thinking, you don't just accept the status quo when it comes to nutrition. You don't just say, oh, okay, this is what I was taught, so this is what I believe. You actually are constantly questioning and evolving and expanding, because like I said in the other videos, nutrition is an extremely young science.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of very well-educated people in the nutrition world, a lot of them are still on the low carb bandwagon because of whatever reason. So that I just wanted to kind of address that for people who are like, well, how does a dietitian end up falling, right? It's like, and Sarah, you're a dietitian too.
Yes.
I mean, the truth is you're a PhD and a dietitian. So, I mean, we're not exempt from also, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I love that you brought this up. Just this morning, I was texting with my friend, Dr. Rachel Brown. She's a psychiatrist in Scotland. And we've done also a couple of interviews very recent, because she was also carnivore for so long and reintroduced carbs. And all of a sudden, all of the symptoms that were happening from long-term ketosis has gone away. And she's dropping body weight, and the skin improved, metabolism came back online. fixed gut health, calprotectin went down, all that stuff. And so we're constantly talking because like how, and she was like, I just cannot understand how we, of all people, with all the education that we have, could have fallen for that, right? And I was like, and I just texted her this morning. I'm like, you know what I think? I think it's just sometimes when you're desperate for results, you become more impressionable sometimes. And there is, yes, like you said, there are data. There are very confident people talking with so much confidence, bringing up the studies, learning and talking our language, because we respond to science more so when you come from an educated background. Yeah. So you have all those elements, plus really looking for answers. This is how you fall into this trap.
Absolutely. And I think the other piece of that too, especially what you said around the confidence factor and people presenting it, because when you have more of a disposition like you and I, where you're constantly questioning yourself, then you go, well, if somebody has that level of confidence, they must be completely competent. They must know something I don't know. There must be something I'm missing, because I've always questioned, which is also why it took me so damn long to start a channel, because the last thing I ever wanted to do was go lead people down a path, right? Or have some stance on something and not be correct, because I never want to guide people in the wrong direction. Yeah. I really care about people, and I really care about what I recommend, as you do. And it you know, that was a big piece of my hesitation, because I was still navigating all that. And over the 10 years, I mean, obviously growing into yourself as a practitioner, working with clients one-on-one. And the conclusion I came to was like, not only is low carb not the path to metabolic freedom like it's, you know, staged as, but people are so bio-individual. And it is so much more than the damn carb content of our diet that regulates our metabolism, our energy, our hormone. I mean, there's so many aspects to health that we're missing when all we're doing is focusing on how many grams of carbs. Are you keto? I mean, it's just kind of like, it's really ridiculous when you really look at it holistically.
Yeah. Isn't it sad also? Like, look at the standards that we women hold ourselves to. You know, we have to double check and triple check our stuff, and we have to make sure we're always right and like we're backed up by all the data. Whereas men and society doesn't hold men to the same standard. You know, you can have the most incompetent person in the top position, as we all know, right? And it's like, how is that even possible? Imagine a woman that is that incompetent, what they would do to her if she were to be placed in that position. The standards are like what women have to do, how competent they have to be, how much smarter, how much harder they have to work. The standards that not only do we hold, but the society holds us to is so ridiculously high. And what a gap between that and the standard that is expected for men. And it just blows my mind. And it's just so infuriating for not just being a woman in science, but just female in life.
There's a lot of pressure on women. And as we all feel, you know, and a lot of the reason we do end up going back to how we do end up going into these avenues is also a lot of us have been, you know, subtly shamed for our bodies because we don't fit this beauty standard that, well, 99.9% of women don't fit. But when you're kind of subconsciously held to that, and it's like something's wrong with me if I'm not fitting in this. And I remember being so young, like I can't even imagine what it's like for the young girls when they're now, because they have the social media. I didn't have that, and I still had that pressure, that feeling. And like, when the did our bodies become trends anyways? Like, I'm so sick of this. It's like what you just said about this. And I saw this heroin chick look coming back. I'm like, my fucking died of an eating disorder. You know, I've worked with women who have struggled for years to have a normal life because of this. And this is just this cool thing in our culture where it's like, who's the next body that everybody strives for? And it's such a, it's like, you know, what's a beautiful body? A woman who is fueling, exercising, taking care of herself, and actually standing in her power because her authority and her validation is coming from inside of her, not externally. And that's what I feel we're finally moving into. And that's what we're here to lead women to, because stop giving away your power.
Yeah.
And stop giving away your power with your body, with what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat. Let's strip back all the noise and look at it, because it's almost too simple and this is why it's not sellable, because the truth is we need to eat real food. Let's start there. Okay. Eat real food. Get rid of the crap. Stop micromanaging. And if you want to micromanage because you have a specific goal, at least have a healthy foundation first and a healthy relationship with your body first. And then if you want to refine your body, that's going to come from a place of love and self-care versus something's wrong with me, shame, self-loathing if I don't get to this goal. Because what evolves out of that? Nothing other than more self-loathing. Whereas when we go, you know what? How can I actually show my body some compassion, some love, co-create with my body, find a connection, tune in. How am I responding to this? How am I feeling? How am I sleeping? Not looking outside of ourselves for somebody else, to really giving people that agency, because that's what we all really want, but an agency with a foundation of self-care and self-love. And I know that may sound silly to some people, but the whole reason we're in a mess of overweight or ill health is because we're disconnected. And then following someone else's rules that further disconnects us, it just ends up being the snowball effect. And then we sit in the corner going, what the fuck's wrong with me? Why is my body so broken?
Yeah.
Because the power's been stripped. And it's the same way the medical industry has victimized people with a weight problem, with obesity. Oh, you can't control your weight. You need this injection. You need this pill because you're a victim of your body. That.
Yeah.
Nobody's a victim of their body.
Yeah.
And you know what's the most powerful of all, which we touched on in another video? How are you thinking about what you're doing? Because all of Ellen Langer's work and so much new work in the industry and nutrition, this is from Stanford, is showing that the way you think about what you're eating directly impacts how you process what you're eating. So you know what, Sarah, I bet the people who say I cannot eat carbs without my blood sugar spiking or I feel like crap, there could be something, maybe some genetic abnormality, maybe lifestyle, who knows? It would be so impossible to assess that without knowing every aspect of that person's history. But what I can say is if you sit down to eat carbs and you're like, this is going to make me fat, and you have a fear-based energy and you have anxiety, you are literally changing your physiology. You're changing your biochemistry, and you are not going to process them the same because now you're increasing cortisol. You're increasing stress hormones. Anyway, sorry, I just went on a tangent.
I love that. I love that. And the stats that you shared in the part 2, I believe, is where you talked about what we believe we're eating, even though with the 2 shakes, the diet shake versus the full calorie shake. And it was really the same shake. They just told the people that this is diet and this is not. And there was like a 300% difference in leptin and ghrelin levels, which is insane.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's why I do believe there are people who are doing fine on this approach. Maybe they love it. Maybe they believe in it. Maybe they thrive with it. The only thing I would say, great, just pay attention to your symptoms. Yeah. And if your body is communicating with you and you don't have any symptoms, then keep going, fine. Yeah. But just remember that there is a honeymoon period for a lot of people with these extreme diets. And most of the time, that honeymoon period is not because of the diet they're going on, but it's all they got out of their diet. It's getting rid of the ultra processed foods. We are not promoting flour, sugar, ultra processed foods. Now, let me caveat that before we get a comment. Yes, sourdough bread. Yes. Those things are fine to me, but the ultra processed foods are what these diets typically, when people go on these extreme approaches, they're eliminating, because you see the same thing in the vegan world, right? People go on a whole food vegan diet and they say it's because of vegan. This is why I feel so amazing. Sometimes they do really well for a long time. Sometimes their body slowly breaks down because of the fat soluble nutrients, essential amino acids, etc. We won't go down that road in this video. But I think the bottom line is we're here to support you. We're not here to say you're doing anything wrong if you found an approach that works for you. But Sarah and I both suffered in many ways on not, really. And what I'm teaching about tuning into your body, that's something I had to learn. And it's not something I wasn't doing then because I didn't trust myself. And if I can help other women never fall into that, or at least get out of it sooner than I did, well, then I won, right? We won.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, seeing the clients and the people that are commenting on these videos telling me like they're literally coming alive by reintroducing carbs. And the moment that shift happens, all of a sudden you're like, what the hell was I thinking? I cannot believe I got sucked into that. Because it is a sensitive topic, and it is something that a lot of us are desperate to have. We all want to feel healthy and energetic and happy, and we want to be lean and all that stuff. So, and we kind of discount the basics because we think that the basics are boring, but the basics are brilliant for a reason. You know, it's just, it doesn't garner attention, you know, it doesn't grab your attention as much as like, what if there's a hack? What if you feel like you've discovered something that not a lot of people know about, and you feel kind of like proud of yourself, like, oh, I know about keto, is like cutting edge. And I'm not saying it's not helpful to understand those metabolic states and know how to work with them, when to use them, when not to use them. But it's definitely, especially for weight loss, it is not the way to go. You need carbs and you need an insulin spike to absorb nutrients. The sheer amount of clients I'm seeing with labs now that have nutrient deficiencies, like even iron, even vitamin B12. I'm like, how is iron and vitamin B12 deficiency a thing after years on carnivore when all you've eaten was red meat? And it's because you're not absorbing the stuff without the insulin spike. You need carbs and insulin to be able to uptake those nutrients, to absorb them, to have proper nutritional balance. And you also need a wide variety of micronutrients. You know, it's not just a singular thing in isolation that you're going to absorb. And so, well, at least we figured it out. I think you figured it out a lot sooner than I did, unfortunately, but it's okay. Better late than never. I think for me, being on the show, the first ever carnivore show, and just seeing so many clients on carnivore and being so deep in it, I really wanted to take it to the max and make sure it works for everybody. And so the longer you hang in there trying to make something work, it takes you longer to unbrainwash yourself. What is brainwashing? It's just being seeped into a certain way of thinking and only paying attention to anything that might support that way of living. And so you did the brainwashing, and I kind of double down on it. And so then the unbrainwashing work had to happen afterwards.
Well, to be fair, you were really much more immersed in it than I was. I can't even imagine if I had been immersed or surrounded by it, I probably would have been gaslighted like, oh, you're just doing it wrong or whatever.
Right.
But it can be really hard to hold on to yourself when it's human nature, Sarah. I mean, you look at that's why there's cults. That's why there are people who are so extreme and like, this is my belief about spirituality and everybody else is wrong. And it's like, how can you even think that if you look at all the wealth of the evidence in all different spiritual practices, which just isn't about spirituality, but you know where I'm going with this is like this. That's what I keep saying is like nutrition has become a religion.
Yes.
Instead of science.
Yeah.
And the other thing I will say too, because just because something hasn't been researched doesn't mean it's not valid. And I think you could agree with me. I say research or research-based evidence informed, because I have witnessed things with clients that isn't research-based, but definitely works, even with myself. I mean, there's a lot, like I said, there's so much we have yet to understand. And then what's underneath that?
That's the thing that makes the carnivore thing even worse, because you do see those things and you're like, okay, well, we just haven't bothered to study them just yet, which further keeps you in that loop. You know, it's like, yes, it's true as well. Clinical experience is powerful, and N of one and anecdotal evidence is still evidence, you know? So that can go either way.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the things that people have commented, and we promised them we're going to answer them with part 3, because we didn't get to it in part 2. We were talking more about macros and talking more about also your workouts and just getting to know you better. So let's talk a little bit on the GI testing. You kind of mentioned a little bit on the gut testing that you
the GI.
Yes, and then you mentioned there's another one you're using with AI. Is there?
Oh, I haven't used it yet. I just saw it. I recommended it. I saw it. It was a brand new test covered in one of my It was like a gut health nutrition overview, research review. But I could look it up because it's brand new.
So it's not a GI map. It's something similar to GI map.
It is. It's similar to a GI map.
Right.
I think it's the Jonah Health, but what we could do is,
you can
it's Jonah. Jonah Health is the other one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting once you start utilizing that to get your feedback on it.
And I will say, I really only use GI mapping when they're symptomatic. The reason I had done that with my husband's friend is because he had been on keto and he was worried about what does my gut look like because he likes to optimize. But really, because almost every time when I do a GI map, it's the same thing. We have to increase the fiber. We have to increase the whole plant foods. We have to decrease the saturated fats, especially if somebody has high calprotectin and inflammation. Oh, I'm probably going to get attacked for that. But if you've ever, and by people who have probably never done functional and integrated nutrition, but clients who have a lot of gut issues have a really bad flares a lot of the time with butter and cream and saturated fats. I'm not saying those fats are bad. I'm just saying when somebody's in an inflammatory state, they tend to instigate more inflammation.
Yeah.
But what the really neat thing about the gut testing is that, you can see whether the lining is intact, but I was saying about pretty much the same. It's pretty much increase your fiber, increase your fermented foods, healthy fats, whole plant foods, get rid of refined flour, refined sugar, prioritize some protein at each meal, whether plant or lean animal based, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of the same ideas, but unless I have a client with a very specific thing that may be off. And you can also look at whether they have gluten sensitivity. And that's another one too, because there's this, everybody's anti-gluten. But what the research actually shows is that when you don't have celiac and when you don't have non-celiac gluten sensitivity and you remove wheat, you actually get your microbiome actually it's a negative impact on the gut. And so wheat and gluten, and I know I'm going to get railed for this, but I'm just going with the research. And I would also caveat that with, I always recommend if clients are going to eat wheat or gluten, imported flour from Italy. If you're going to have pasta, if you're doing bread, non-GMO, try to find it that's glyphosate free because it's not really the gluten that's been, unless you have celiac or non-celiac gluten sensitivity, but a lot of these autoimmune issues coming up with gluten are not the gluten itself. It's that we created this hybridized wheat in this culture in the 1970s because it was cheaper, but it's much harder on our systems. And then almost all of our wheat and wheat products are contaminated with glyphosate, which completely destroys the lining of the gut, increases your risk of cancer. God only knows all the other pesticides, et cetera, that are sprayed on it. So we have to remember that it's context dependent. And then the other neat thing is you can see the ratio of the Firmicutes to bacteroidetes in the gut. And what's really interesting, I was actually thinking about this with people who are going on Ozempic or these drugs because of sugar cravings, for instance. Well, a lot of sugar cravings, when I've seen in clients who really struggle with that, they have a very high amount of Firmicutes and a very low amount of bacteroidetes. And Firmicutes love sugar, so they drive the brain to seek sugar. And what feeds bacteroidetes? Beans, soluble fibers like whole plant foods, etc. So there is, if you just treat somebody with a drug to try to mute their appetite, which I'm not going to go down that road. Maybe we'll do another video on that, but about the drugs. But you're not changing anything about the gut. And in fact, the gut's taking a hit a lot of the time because the gut, gastroparesis. I've had clients go into pancreatitis. I've had clients need a gallbladder removed. I've had clients go into depression. Well, I mean, it is really scary, some of the side effects, and not to mention the lean tissue loss and the lack of actually being able to heal your relationship with food because now you can't even connect to your body.
You're still operating from a fear-based perspective. Food is still something to restrict, as opposed to actually using food as fuel to fuel a stronger, more powerful body, as opposed to building yourself up with all the available resources. We're lucky we have all of these calories around us, whereas our caveman ancestors didn't. that's why we're developing AI and we're doing much more powerful things with our brain, because we have the energy, more energy to do so. So take it, invest it, use it as fuel, but you can't just take it and not earn it. You have to invest it in your metabolism by working out. Even, by the way, even sugars, even flours, no elite Olympian, no elite athlete can just function on whole foods. There's no way. They cannot compete at that level. And so it's the same with mental health. If you want to compete at a very high level mentally, it's the same as an Olympic athlete that's competing at a very high level physically. It's one and the same. And so at some point, you could even introduce those. Like for me right now with my metabolism at 3,200 calories, it's impossible to only eat whole foods. I make sure I cover my bases, get enough fiber. I make sure I get the bulk of my meals being whole foods, but pre-workout, post-workout, it's impossible. I just have no appetite, and if I don't match those calories in sugars, then I'm going to lose my muscle. I'm not going to be able to set a higher PR. I'm not going to get even stronger and raise my baseline dopamine serotonin even higher. And then this is the comment that I always get, well, not everybody is an elite Olympian. Life is going to force you to train like that. And if you refuse to keep getting stronger physically and mentally, then you will always be stuck where you're at with your income level, with your relationship status right now. You will always be stuck like that. And so sure, you can opt out of the game, but the person who's actually training in their day-to-day, it doesn't take that much time, by the way, to keep pushing your fitness level higher. It's the same time. You just train, you look at it in a different way, like you're setting PRs every time. The person who's doing that is going to keep raising their standards, is going to keep getting tougher, more confident, happier, is going to make more income because they have more energy, they're more productive. And so you can say, well, I'm not an Olympian. Well, then yeah, sure, you can opt out of success and you can just settle. But not everybody around you is going to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to also emphasize that when I'm talking about eating mostly whole food, we statistically, 1 in 5 women resistance train regularly. That's how low the numbers are. And I believe the lightest statistic was something like, it was really, if somebody quotes me on it, I better not even give a percentage, but majority of Americans get less than 5,000 steps a day. And we already know that the brain, believe it or not, the brain cannot regulate appetite under 8,500 steps. So when you move too little, you're actually more hungry. Our bodies were built to move. Ancestrally, we were walking, I think it was somewhere between 6 to 10 miles a day. We're lifting, we're gathering, we're gardening, we're doing things constantly. And every time you move, you're using energy, right? And so it's like, when I love what you said, it's like, and for people, don't be like, oh my God, if I can't work out 2 hours a day, it's not worth. No, if you work out 45 minutes hard, you can get incredible benefits. And I will say that you don't do that from going from a couch potato though, or sedentary, because the other problem that happens is when people who don't have an aerobic base, a metabolic aerobic base, when they go into just doing like super high intense training, what that actually does is it throws the system into a glycolytic mode, and the body is actually not burning fat at rest. You're kind of in the sugar burning mode because you have to build the engine first. You have to build the aerobic engine, and you can do that by focusing on zone 2, 30 minutes a day at the minimum. You can do up to an hour a day of zone 2 with so many health benefits. And no, I do not believe in the whole women over 40 avoid zone 2. That's another thing. It's like there is so much dogma around women in perimenopause. And for me, it goes back to that whole, what do you love? And if you love what you're doing, then that changes your physiology, that changes your body's response to the exercise. But yeah, building that foundation. And then if you want to do 45 minutes of power training, strength training, resistance training, something to really push those high ends, because the latest research that just came out, I believe it was 1 minute of vigorous activity was equivalent to 8 minutes of moderate activity.
Yep.
I mean, that is insane, right? And so one of the protocols is to do like 20 minutes and do 1 minute hard, 1 minute rest, 1 minute hard, 1 minute rest. And the funny part of that, Sarah, is like when we talked about the study in the other interview, where when the men did that for 2 weeks while eating like 3,500 calories a day of McDonald's, they actually lost body fat, improved metabolic health markers, all those things. So exercise is incredible. It is such a benefit. And I think it's not talked about enough in the space in general. It's really the magic of the two. You have to marry them. And of course, you need the sleep and you need the hydration and all those other things. But exercise is medicine. It really is. Our bodies are designed to move. And ladies, I think you would agree with me on this, Sarah. Please don't be afraid of getting bulky.
Right. Do you know how hard it is? I wish it would be easy to get bulky, but it's ridiculously difficult, you know? And trust me, I've been doing this for a long time. And now even thankfully, since you're introducing carbs, it's picked up a lot more and setting PRs a lot faster. But still, you want those results and you want to get the glutes and you want to get the legs and you want to get that muscle mass. And it's not as easy when you're doing it naturally. The people that are, the reason why a lot of women are scared of getting bulky is because they see like those images of the roided up, bodybuilder ladies who are doing it for competition purposes, but you can't achieve that naturally.
No. And also then we also want to check ourselves, right? And go, okay, so if I'm afraid to put on any muscle because I'm not going to be skinny or I'm going to take up more space, I know for me, I'm like, what am I modeling for my daughter? Like, she's 12 years old. I want her to feel, I don't want her to base what she does for movement on strictly aesthetics. I want her to challenge her body because when you shift from, and I'm not saying, and this is where I think we go wrong in this space, not us, but like just in general, it's like this extreme aesthetics or this extreme health at every size. It's like, Jesus, it's not either of those, because at least my personal philosophy is your body, when you are honoring it with fuel, when you are honoring it with training, when you're honoring it truly coming from a place of gratitude and love, and what else am I capable of? Like, let's look at performance. Like, your body will be the most beautiful expression of whatever your body's meant to be. And it's like, it's only when we get in that comparison mindset or that comparison mode that we start to go, do I want to do that? I don't want to get too big. Or should I do that? Or only looking at modes of exercise based on physical appearance. Mm-hmm. Now you're immediately like, here's my power. I'm just looking for external validation. Please, somebody tell me I'm okay, instead of going, I'm going to own this body. Like, this is the body I chose to come into this life with. So it's about time I create a relationship with it that's fulfilling and that's love-based. And I say that a lot, but it's because I spent so many years of my life in a shame-based relationship with my body due to trauma. And a lot of women go through similar trauma that really creates the body being the scapegoat. And that is also what kind of causes that cognitive dissonance, where we can fall into things that we look back and we go, how did I ever believe that? Because it wasn't coming from a logical place. It was coming from an emotional space of going, something's wrong with me. I need to find something that works, you know?
I love that so freaking much. And I think the more women get more comfortable lifting weights and getting just stronger physically, not just lifting weights, by the way, because I know like the vast majority of health experts, like, just lift weights. It's like, well, what about cardiovascular fitness?
Yeah.
You know, it's how are you going to really boost gut motility and improve gut diversity, like, and mental health and gut, those two things. Cardio. Resistance training is great to speed up the metabolism, improve acetylcholine levels and that focus molecule and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, the more women, I think, start to do that, the more we're going to see more representation, and you're going to start to see the stark difference in the personalities and the character. And you're going to notice as the stronger women are hotter, they're more attractive, they're stronger, they're confident, you're attracted to their energy. And I think that just takes time for society to catch up with, you know?
Yeah, and it depends on the patriarchy. It depends on, but the only way, like in my opinion, the only way all of that's going to change is it's going to be a grassroots movement of women who say, I am not going to model an almond mom to my daughter. I'm not going to sit here and eat chicken breast and broccoli every night while my kid is eating pizza and French. Like,
are you referring to the Yolanda Hadid little scene where she gives a half an almond to Gigi Hadid?
Oh, yeah. It's really, I mean,
Yeah.
these patterns are generational, right? It's like I grew up with a mom. My mother always called her mother. I never met her because unfortunately she died in a car accident when I was like a baby, but she was like my mom called her borderline anorexic, and then mom was very restrictive. And some good things came out of that because she was OCD about health food. So we grew up on real whole foods. I started exercising at a young age. But then, of course, the negative side of that was it was always coming from fear, restriction, control, not power, expansion, possibility, performance, which, and what you just said is so true. When you look at women who have really owned their bodies and like push themselves on a performance level or just, become the most beautiful version of themselves. Like to me, it's the energy behind that is so attractive and so beautiful versus giving your self-worth to what? To somebody else who like, why do we give our power away? Because we're so conditioned to do that.
Yeah, because this is like, the feminine look that's supposed to be more attractive. How can weakening yourself be attractive to anybody unless that person is weaker? Right? I mean, it makes no sense, right? Strength is attractive. Strength is just a drag. It like pulls you in. It's that energy that you emanate. The way you carry yourself, the way you allow people, like how you train people to treat you. All those things come from your strength, and it's very rare to have just a strong character without also being strong physically. I mean, some people, of course, they have those genes where they have like, the family I married into, lots of dopamine genes. Everybody's high all the time. Like, it's so frustrating, but for the vast majority of people, a strong body comes along with a strong mind, and a more balanced mind, not just like high all the time, but also that serotonin too. You want that calm confidence and that clarity as well. And so isn't that attractive? Isn't that what we want? And you notice, by the way, like men that are in shape and that train, they are attracted to fit women, right?
Oh yeah.
Because they're already strong physically, mentally, and they are attracted to somebody that vibes on the same level.
And the other thing too is when you meet a man of quality, he's not just with you because of your physical appearance or your body shape or my husband said something the other day that I thought was so cool. He was like, I don't understand this body type thing with women. He's like, I think all different body types are beautiful as long as she takes care of herself. And I'm like, exactly. So women, own your body.
See the beauty in all of the body shapes, and just stop getting just because certain magazines or media companies which are often run by men, middle-aged men, just because they deem to be like that is the look does not necessarily mean that that's what all men. I know my hubby's always like, I don't know about like model types. I've always loved, like strong women, I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Because for me, growing up in Lebanon, I just thought that everybody just liked what we saw in the magazines, especially in the 90s. Like there was like just one body type, and that obviously affects how you feel about your own body. And so when I met my hubby, and he's like, it's like, where are the glutes? Like, where are the legs? Like, where is the shape? Yeah. And it's probably because he's been training all his life, and so he loves that athletic lifestyle. Strong, energetic, healthy. That's
there's also a different energy a woman carries when she really honors her body versus when she's trying to like force her body into submission or change her body for somebody else. It's not just the physique, it's the energy behind it. And we're not shaming women who are naturally skinny if that's your natural body type. I'm just talking in a general sense. Yeah. And I think when men are more secure and confident in themselves and really respect women, those things, like they're not thinking about these details nearly as much as we are. They're looking at us as a whole person. That's really, really, really important. But there was something else I was going to say on that, and it just slipped my mind. So maybe it'll come back.
with body. I guess we're just talking about like why don't be shooting for like getting smaller and weaker and restrict. Why not shoot if you're gonna shoot for something? Why not shoot for the strength, right, and the abundance, right? You were talking the last time about PCOS. And that's a major thing that maybe you may want to share your thoughts on carbs in cases of PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome in women.
Absolutely. So there's this idea that when women have PCOS, they have to go on a low carbohydrate diet. Now, I am not going to sit here and say that all women who have PCOS do great on carbs. Oftentimes, this has been my experience clinically, and how I approach it is, first of all, we need to get a fasting insulin, because a fasting insulin is going to tell me whether or not you have insulin resistance. When you look at research that has compared like lower carb with higher carb diets, what they show pretty consistently is that elevated fasting insulin, you will get a slight metabolic advantage with reducing carbohydrate intake. Now, if these are not metabolic ward studies and they're free living, we can't really differentiate if that's because of the carb restriction or because the reduction of carbs is helping with the appetite control due to the insulin resistance, which causes less food intake, which then leads to more weight loss. But when we're looking more like PCOS and a hormonal balance, so first I'm looking at their fasting insulin, and then I'm looking at the diet quality. Like, what do I suppose the health of their gut is? What are the symptoms? Do they have good motility? Do they have gas? Do they have bloating? All these other things. What is the energy level like? What are their symptoms when they go through, are they ovulating? I'll have women do ovulation tests, because you're often not ovulating when you have PCOS, which is really cool, because to have your clients, and I have a couple who are wanting to prepare for a baby, like get so excited because they're ovulating again.
Right.
It's amazing. So sorry, I just got chills with that one because it's just such a beautiful thing. But what I would say is that depending on the woman, and it's also going to depend on how much weight she has to lose. So I have a client who had some weight to lose, and we didn't start, we never went zero carb, but we did do you would say moderate to lower carb approach. In the beginning, she wasn't doing a lot of exercise, hadn't been used to doing a lot of exercise. Again, we have to look at the whole picture. And so we were prioritizing protein, fiber, healthy fats. And of course she had carb. It was not low carb, you know what I mean? Or it wasn't keto, let's put it that way. But when you're eating on a calorie deficit and you're eating 1,400 calories, 30%, it's a lower carb diet automatically, right? But it's not a no carb diet. Bottom line, she worked with me for over a year. In fact, I still see her here and there. Amazing. Wish I could just clone her. Amazing client. And she lost all the weight and did absolutely incredible. And what we started doing, and I also had her get not a CGM, but just a blood glucose monitor, so we could start checking her sugars and seeing how is her body responding over time as she's losing weight, as she's increasing activity. She's even training for a half marathon now, to see, is her body upregulating her ability to process carbohydrates. And what was so incredible is we watched her blood sugars over the period of time normalize, and then slowly upping her carbohydrates. And now it was so funny because I won't forget this, because she was like, one night anyways, I think she had some alcohol. She had like a mac and cheese type thing. Not so that wasn't the base of her diet. I'm just giving this as an example, because typically with PCOS or insulin resistance, to do that would be, a disaster. And for her, she tolerated it just fine. Her blood sugar was just fine. And so I think the most important thing is, if you're struggling with hormone imbalance like PCOS, you may have to follow what I would call more of a therapeutic diet, a therapeutic approach, just like when you're trying to lose weight. And oftentimes we're also trying to lose weight. We don't stay on low calorie forever. In fact, we cycle calories, we do maintenance breaks. And then once we fix that carbohydrate tolerance and we improve metabolic flexibility and we increase activity, guess what happens? She's eating carbs. She has no problems with blood sugar. She's lost all the weight. She's maintaining the weight loss. And now it's fun, because now it's like, performance goals like running, lifting, and she's not going to have to micromanage every bite she eats because it's actually building that healthy foundation, improving metabolic flexibility, maximizing performance so that she won't spend the rest of her life having to sit there like, I can't eat potatoes, I can't eat bread, everything being around just restriction, reduction, because I mean, there are so many carbohydrates are so important for so many aspects of gut health, hormone health, like you were talking about, maintaining a certain level of insulin, because this idea that we want like no insulin or insulin is bad, again, it's so reductionistic. And insulin is directly involved in Kisspeptin regulation, which is involved in metabolic rate and how our body utilizes energy. And in fact, the latest review around female athletes, if anybody wants a number to not go below, it's 3 grams per kilo of body weight. And these were women who were exercising about an hour a day. Going below that number was when they really started to see thyroid and hormone downregulation. And yes, for the men, because it's always the men with these comments, this is research based. So if you're going to push back, at least do your research. Because women, we are sensitive. And maybe Sarah, maybe there are some women out there who are outliers and they do fantastic on keto. Good. That's fine. I'm happy for you. I'm just saying that a majority of the people who work with me want a diet that is coming from a place of abundance, expansion, health, longevity. If I can help a client achieve an incredible outcome with as much flexibility as possible, then why would I want to reduce their diet down to being so strict that's literally stealing the life out of you? Because now, and there's so many other, because we were talking about this other study before we got on about how there was a research done showing that, I don't think we brought this up in the other video, but showing that babies, when women are pregnant, following a low carbohydrate diet actually predisposes them to insulin resistance, obesity. And if people doubt this, Sarah can link the study.
Yeah, send it to me for sure. I would love to link it.
Because these are not little things. And what we should be really focused on is not, again, this reductionistic, isolating view of the body, but looking at it holistically. Because, I mean, you just even think about the insanity of this concept. If you look at like the centenarian populations, they all eat starch. Like there's not a carnivore centenarian population. I mean, and not even that, it's like food is where we're so missing. Like food is where we connect. Right? Yeah. Like think about your traditional foods. Like it broke my heart. I went for a walk with my very good friend and neighbor. She's from Jamaica. And she went to visit one of her friends in New York City. And she was telling me, she had brought in this Jamaican food. She was so excited to sit down and share a meal with her. And she's like, oh, I can't eat. And she just literally gives herself her shot of Ozempic. And she's like, oh, and I can't eat carbs and I can't eat this and I can't eat that. And I'm like, and she continues to struggle with her weight. She continues to yo-yo. And I was just like, this is where we're going. Like, this is so sad. Instead of looking at let's open our minds up a little bit. I mean, my sister has traveled all over the world and she's like, I mean, when you travel, it's almost like, it's so ridiculous when you look at what Americans say, because I mean, you go to France, you go to Italy and the bread and the pasta and the gelato, and you go to all these different countries and every country has its own kind of starch staple. Sure. And we in America are living on 70% of the diet, ultra processed foods, walking less than 5,000 steps a day, 1 in 5 women strength training at least only 1 time a week. And then we're looking at our plate and blaming the carbs? No. Yeah, it's the lack of physical activity. We want something without having to earn it. You want to get to a level like I have finally gotten to, and I can have the honey and I can have the sugar and I can have the cookie. You have to earn it. You have to justify why you're having it, And so base your diet on whole foods. And then if you keep getting stronger and faster, metabolism keeps getting faster and faster, then the only way to keep up with that metabolism is
to have those foods, but you can't have those foods when you're insulin resistant and you're overweight and you're not working out, right? You can't do that in the beginning stages. You can't justify consuming those. They're going to spill over and they're going to land you in a worse off position.
And I want to say one more thing on that, because I think it's also important, because I have clients who, like, I used to do genetic testing. I don't do it as much anymore, but because, the research is very mixed, and all this passion I have now about really the epigenetics and our thoughts, our biology of belief, etc., to me is much more fun and exciting than looking at a genetic SNP and saying, oh, you can't eat this. Or in fact, it was so funny. I actually almost forgot to mention this. One of the reasons that I even experimented with low carb was because I had a genetic test done by DNA Fit. And for dietitians, they gave us like some kind of, like, I don't remember, it was like a 50% off, we'll test your genes. And my DNA Fit test came back that said I needed to follow a low carb diet. And I was like, oh my God, wow. So maybe, and so I started to question myself. Yeah. But here's the really funny thing, and I'm so glad I stopped even doing those tests, because then I did like 3 other companies, and every one of them was different. Nutrigenomics told me, oh, you have the amylase enzyme, you need a moderate carb. And then I did 3x4 genetics, and they're like, you're so insulin sensitive, you will never have to worry about carbs. And I'm looking at all these tests, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, so if you're using a genetic test to determine whether or not you're carb tolerant, just throw it out, because it's so. Wow. Now, I will say, though, there is a specific gene that when they did a breakdown of the Gardner studies with low carb versus high carb, there is a specific gene that showed that people had a slight advantage with low carb. But the funny part was, we're talking about over a course of a year, it was a difference of 2 pounds. Wow. So, and it was free living, so we don't have calorie control and all those things. Right. Now, the scary thing is that there are people who carry a gene that make them extremely sensitive to saturated fats. And that's 35% of the population, meaning if they're going on a low carb diet, pounding butter and bacon and meats really rich in saturated fat, they are more predisposed to heart issues, to obesity, to gut health issues. So this idea that everybody, like, saturated fat is just this great thing for everybody to just drink butter is no, it's really inflammatory. Yeah. Not for everyone, but there are people who have that predisposition.
Exactly. And then also, you cannot compare somebody who's training consistently, been training for years, and has insane levels of muscle mass and bone density is strong, fast metabolism. You can't compare that with the same gene, let's say the amylase gene, to somebody else with the same genetic mutation or the SNP of the amylase gene and who's sedentary, right? It's like that also needs to be factored in.
And a really cool study about this to top it off, and I don't know if this would correlate with the study on saturated fat, because the different mechanism, it might be a little bit different, but they did do a study. I thought it was really cool. And they took professional athletes and they told so you can also test for power and strength and endurance. And they told the group of athletes that had the ultra power gene that they didn't have that gene. And then they told the other group that they did have that gene. And what happened? A majority of the people in the group who believed they had that gene excelled beyond the people in the group who believed they didn't, even though they were the ones that had that gene. So again, it comes back to, like, own your mind, own your beliefs.
That should be part 4 for us. All things mindset. I swear,
you should. Absolutely.
90% of my time with my clients is spent more so with mindset. And psychology.
Yes.
And my aunt is actually a clinical psychologist. She went back to school and got more degrees, got her master's in that, and now she's in her 50s, 60s.
Oh,
she went back to school. Yeah, I know. I love it. And so we talk all the time about this kind of stuff. And she's like, oh my gosh, like you do this work that I do. I'm like, yeah, because it's like diet and health and nutrition. So much deeper than here are your calories. It's
micromanaging macros.
It's not about that. It's like, why are you doing this? Are you in a toxic relationship? Are you a people pleaser that just can never say no to anybody, and you feel so guilty if you have to take that 1 hour to work out or prep your meals? And it's like, it's so much deeper than that.
And that comes right back to the power piece, because when you're in your power, you have healthy boundaries. You prioritize your needs. It is not being selfish to take care of yourself. In fact, how do you expect to be there for the people you love and be the best version of yourself if you're not taking care of yourself? And a lot of this goes into, so Carolyn Mice, I absolutely love her. And she's a spiritual teacher. She's a medical intuitive.
Oh, you mentioned her last time, right?
Incredible. And she has these really, for women who want to look into this deeper on like the archetype level, because I'm not shaming women for that. I was very other referenced for a lot of my life, and other referencing comes from growing up where, things aren't safe. Let's put it that way. And so then the way we work out these patterns. So basically there's that quote that says, show me a boy to the age of 7 and I'll show you the man, because those 7 years when you're young are very formative. And that's one thing I always say with clients when we are talking about their food issues or we're talking about nutrition. I want to know, what was your child like, what you're willing to share with me. What was your relationship with food then? What was your relationship with your body? What was your mother's relationship with food? What was your family dynamic? I mean, what's really devastating to me is that children eating 70% ultra processed foods and less than 20% of American families cooking. And it's like, what are we setting ourselves up for? I mean, it's really sad, and it's heartbreaking.
Yep. And it affects our economy as well. Imagine how much more of energy, productivity, income, creativity you can bring into this country when you're actually fully come alive and you're actually completely in love with what you do and you're living with passion and you're healthy, right?
Vibrant. Yeah.
Vibrant. Exactly. Yes. I love that so much. And just the strength and the power, being fully reclaiming basically your power, I think, for women, and also some men, which was very surprising to me when I started coaching men. I just assumed that I wouldn't have to talk about those kinds of stuff with men, but no, you also have men that also need that level of awareness and reclaiming their own power, and also not being a people pleaser and always providing for everybody. You don't always, just because, by the way, you made a decision to be a provider in a certain relationship when you're in your 20s, it's okay to change. It's okay to realize that maybe this is no longer feeding my soul. We are living so much longer now, and so sometimes we grow apart, or we just evolve into different versions of ourselves. So just because we made a certain decision, it's okay to change, and it's okay to own that without guilt and come to a healthy solution for everybody, where everybody is thriving, as opposed to feeling like you're just always having to be like the ATM machine for everybody. It's like, no, if you're dying, how is that helping anybody? How is that showing your children or family members a good example? Because they're gonna model that behavior, maybe even subconsciously, until they're aware of those patterns that are generational patterns that are being propagated.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely not exclusive to women, and especially not with, it also depends on the childhood, but also with how much social media there is now. Men are seeing this. It's the same thing. Our brains see it, and then it starts to change the way we look at ourselves, etc. I don't really go on social, honestly. YouTube is my social media because I love it, because I can learn so much. But I'm very careful about what my daughter, she has a channel, she has a bunch of hobbies, she's very creative, and she doesn't have a phone. She's 12. She's not on any social media, and I hope to keep it that way for quite a long time. But yeah, we're diving into so many different things right now. It's funny because we started the PCOS, and I'm like, wow, I really went off track there.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay. We can tackle more topics. Maybe the mindset stuff would be very interesting, I think, to talk more
absolutely.
about, But yeah, let's, I think it's a good place to end it so that it's not super long. Thank you so much, Ariel, again. Where can people find you and work with you?
Yeah, so my channel is Ariel Eve Wellness, and right now my link there is primarily to my portal, because I do accept insurance, all major insurances in Florida, and we are reciprocal with many states. My website is currently in process, but I can do private sessions for people, so they can, I think my email is also linked. I'm sure it's linked on my channel, and I'll have my website up there as soon as it's finished. And yeah, and it's been such an incredible connection with you, Sarah, and such a pleasure. And I'm so excited to keep expanding on these topics because I just got chills. They're just so needed in this space.
Thank you. I think that's why we connected so well. It's just like the energy and the alignment of reclaiming our power. I think that kind of what brought us in a way together. So I love you. I love your energy. I love your confidence. I love how knowledgeable you are, and you deserve to have a lot more eyeballs on you. So hopefully that YouTube channel, keep it up, and hopefully it'll grow super fast. I know you just kind of started, but I see so much potential. And like I mentioned the last time, right? I mean, it took me like a year and a half to pass like the 250 views per video, and you're already way past that. So just keep at it.
And I also want to say something too, just about how amazing it is. Women should be lifting each other up. And when you're in that place with yourself where you are in your power, it's like you want to lift women up. You want to come together. It's not competition or comparison. It's like, let's support each other. Let's help each other grow and evolve. And it's so refreshing and so rare. So I just really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah. I think when you stop living in fear, you really, it trickles down to every other area of your life. And I think I've always kind of been like that, and I can sense that from you as well. Like, you don't operate out of fear,
No, it's an abundance mindset.
Exactly.
Because it's like the more people we can connect, then people who are meant to attract to your energy, they're going to go to you. People who attract to me, no, I'm not for everyone. And that's great. None of us are for everyone. And it's about us reaching as many people as possible. And I just think that it's just it's like, this is where it's like the universe is such a divine design.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a whole other topic. Okay. Thank you so much, Ariel. Thank you, everybody. I hope this was helpful. Let us know if you have any comments, questions, suggestions in the comment section below. I'll make sure I also link Ariel's YouTube and all of the links in the description box below so you can find her easily. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us till the end. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure you give this YouTube video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one.